Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Arrow. So basically, this was an episode where the team kind of had to take a step back. Basically, they wanted to go after Dark, but they couldn't because it's like, well, we don't have a way of dealing with his magic. And basically, the team split up. Theo went off on kind of a vacation with Alex. Diggle kind of stayed behind, but still kind of, supposed to keep it kind of, keep it low key and not, go out after Dark, even though he really wants to, which obviously he didn't. We kind of already knew he was going to end up ignoring what Oliver's advice and kind of doing his own thing anyway. But we also had Oliver and Felicity going off to find someone to teach Oliver a way to counter Dark's magic, which Felicity ended up joining him. At first it's kind of like, no, don't. But she's kind of like, it's kind of interesting because she was kind of like basically telling Oliver not to treat her like everyone else. It's like, even if they are broken up, they still have that connection, I guess. And, and it's just like, she's like, I'm going to go along with you. It's kind of interesting because it's like, I feel like out of anybody, because she was the first one to she had that kind of like squinty eye, like look like, okay, I know you're hiding something. It's like when he told them what he was going to do, go to Hub City. And side note, is that an important place in the comic books or something? Like, I guarantee you that's something that's popped up in Arrow in the past, and I'm just like, oh, Hub City, sure, whatever you say. Is like, I bet you it's like a very important series, like it might not be like an important place, it might not be like something as well known as like Gotham or Metropolis, but it's probably something in the DC universe. It's like, yeah, blah blah blah, superheroes are actually from Hub City, something like that. I don't know. But they went there to check out, trying to find a way to counter the magic. But she, I feel like out of anyone, she catches Oliver on his bullshit. Like, the others kind of call him on his bullshit, but I feel like out of anybody, Felicity definitely does. So, to me, one of the, best things about this episode is the whole John and Andy thing. Like, the fact is, John just couldn't stop himself from going after Andy. Like, even Lila was saying, like, what Oliver said, like, laying low is a good thing. Because it's like, we really, you can't handle someone like Dark. It's like, you don't have a way of defeating him. But it's like, once he found out where Andy was, like, blinders went on for John. He was so filled with, because he's so pissed at his brother, because his brother's responsible for Laura dying, because he put so much faith in his brother, and his brother ended up betraying him. Because what it makes it even worse is because he legitimately thought he got through to his brother. He thought he had his brother back after all this time. First he thought his brother's dead, now finding out his brother works for Hive and has been doing all these bad things, and it's just like he thought he finally had his brother back. And now, that brother ended up betraying him and killing someone who Diggle says, like, Laurel's like a sister to him. It's kind of interesting because even Lila kind of brings it up later in the episode, saying, like, Diggle that Andy wasn't wasn't a real brother to him in, the other ways, because he was, yes, his blood brother, but it's like he wasn't there because he kind of up and abandoned his family, left his wife as well as his son Andy Jr. behind. And it's just like Diggle even tried to use that to kind of talk some sense to him. But I really like the fact is, like, he was just so consumed by rage. He needed to get Andy to make up for the fact of what he did to Laurel. And it's just like, you could already tell he was walking into a trap. I thought, like, at first when he was being, about to be tortured, which thank goodness Andy didn't go too overboard. But granted, I guess that's why, because it was all part of the plan. But I was surprised at that, because I saw Diggle getting away, and I was like, holy crap, I wasn't expecting you to get away that soon. I thought you'd be held captive, taken to Dark or something like that, and then you'd get away or something like that. But it's like, no, Andy, the whole thing was a trap, because it's like, it never crossed my mind. It's like, oh, you gotta. I guess in some way, I was surprised that it happened so fast, but it never crossed my mind that, oh, that was a trap. It was a trap. Andy is good at playing possum. Like, he did that whole pretending he was on their side to begin with, and now he's just like, oh yeah, you caught me. Oh, you escaped. Oh, I lost, big brother. But it's like, no, that was all part of the plan. I guess when retrospect, it's kind of like, that obviously makes sense, because if it was a situation like that where he was seriously trying to catch Diggle, I feel like Dark would have been there from the beginning. He wouldn't have just, like, waited to show up. He would have, like, been there immediately from the shadows. Like, the moment Andy caught him, like, he pops up from the shadows. Hey there, Mr. Diggle, type of situation. But it ended up being a trap. And I have to say, that trailer, that truck they were moving in, that Lila, was kind of, that she was using to kind of go around and keep her and Sarah hidden by constantly moving. that truck and trailer are pretty sturdy. Took a freaking rocket launcher, like got a little shaken up, but it kept on trucking along. I was like, wow, that is impressive. That is heavily guarded. But then Dark showed up and stopped it. We'll kind of nitpick about something. I wish it could have been something like more epic than that. I wish he could have like stopped the truck and like ripped the front half of it off and like threw it away and left the trailer there. Granted, even though he's got his magic powers, he's not at full strength. You know, he's not as powerful as he could be. Which I will admit, since we're talking about Dark's power, I like what he did at the beginning. It's just, I love Dark because he has so much fun in twisted ways. And just that beginning part, when he comes to that hive meeting, he's talking to everybody. He's like, oh, about how you, like, essentially like, oh, he had an epiphany when he was in jail. And just like about how they abandoned him. He's like, so what about Genesis? How's it kept on going? He's like, yes, you know how it is. Genesis keeps going no matter. Genesis is more important, more than just one person. He's like, huh. It's like, yeah, back to my epiphany, and that guy pulled a gun on him. He just stopped the bullet. He's just like, he's like, I kind of knew it. Knew you were going to do that. Freaking threw the bullet back and, like, headshotted him. And then the lady tried to run away, and he just kind of did his hand, like, made a motion with his hands. I don't know whether he snapped her neck or broke her back, what he did to her. But the moment he did, she collapsed and died. It's like, wow. I love how the fact is he just randomly discarded their bodies in this city, too. But that situation, I did not expect it to turn out the way it did. But because Andy was just egging him on, he's like, "You have to kill me." He's like, "Laura would be disappointed in you for not killing me." It's like, in which we know is total horse crap. You know, Laura will be more disappointed at him for doing what he did. But it's just like he was just constantly. He's like, "Oh, you think I won't?" You could essentially because the way Diggle made it sound like because Lila was talking about handling Andy the right way. So I was thinking like, okay. Diggle's going to lock him up and he's going to arrest him, but it's essentially like I thought it was like, okay, you got him cornered like this. You called for police backup, didn't you? Like Lance is going to show up with some cops, or maybe just cops and not Lance, but they're going to show up and arrest Andy for everything he's done. But then it's just like Andy's there talking like, oh, you think he's going to stop me? Like I got, you had me locked up before and I kind of got away. And then you also had Dart locked up and he got out. So it's like, what's to say I won't get out? He's like, your family would never be safe. Your little girl, she won't ever be able to go to school. She'll have to be running for the rest of her life if she wants, because we'll never stop coming after you. And your wife, you can't look after her 24/7. And just like the fact of the matter is, how do you think, like, you can like take down all these other people, but you can't even, you can protect people and you can shoot and kill people to protect some Afghanis that you don't know, but then you can't even shoot me to protect your own family. And John was just like, just stop and pull the trigger. And I was just like, wow, you actually shot him. For a second I was like, okay, you're about to stop bleeding or something, like you're gonna help him or something. He's like, no, he just sat there and died. I was like, wow. And I'm not really sure what he, like, it seems like he did tell Oliver the truth, because he was like, he was never going to stop. He's going to come after my family. But he turns around and tells Lila a lie. He's like, he tried to go for the gun. Because she's like, what happened? He's like, he tried to go for my gun and it kind of went off. It's like, wow, that's crazy. Because he just couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth, because she brought it up in the episode. She's like, the reason why she fell back in love with John because he changed, and she's like, the man he is right now, he's so adamant about going after Andy. She's like, that's the man she divorced. So I'm guessing he was afraid to admit to her, like, that he ended up killing his brother. It's like, it's not your fault. Shit happened. You just like, you got caught up in it. Your emotions were running high. It's just like, it wasn't, you can tell he didn't necessarily mean it. It was just kind of a moment of just like, just shut up, stop threatening my family. But it went off. But you could also argue it's like, yeah, you meant to, you wanted to kill him because you knew. I mean, at least he was honest with Oliver, but he didn't tell Lila the truth, which it's going to be interesting to see. Like, I feel like that's going to come back to bite him in the ass. Like, Lila's going to find out the truth, that's what that was all about, that he lied to her about that. I just thought that was fascinating. And, I don't know, like, I mean, that's got to be something to weigh heavy on you. I mean, it already weighs heavy on him, but it's like, the fact is he just killed his brother, his only baby brother. He killed him, and it's just like, there ain't no bouncing back from that. It does make you wonder how it's going to affect him in the future. Like, we haven't seen the real effects of it. I feel like eventually he's going to like have to deal with it, because I feel like somebody's going to throw that back in his face. I don't know if that's going to be this season or maybe next season, but that's definitely going to come back to haunt him. You don't, like, that doesn't just disappear. Yes, you did it to protect your family, but you still ended up killing your brother, and it's just, I don't know. And truth be told, I don't know in a situation like that. Like, Andy isn't the man he used to be, so it's like hard to tell, like, was killing him the best option? I don't know. Trying to be a better person than he is, I guess, like, trying to do, all of them trying to do better. It's like, yeah, I kind of, like, especially, with Oliver trying not to kill people. It's like, the same thing kind of applies to the rest of the team. So I guess he's kind of like, yeah, kind of, screw the pooch on that situation. Like, he could have handled that in a more heroic way of not killing, his brother, but it's just like I said, heated emotions and stuff like that. On the other side of this episode was the Thea and Alex thing. I was just like, I thought some of those, I was like, the moment she woke up talking about like she couldn't remember it, I was like, did he drug you? I was a little suspicious of it, and just like, and I love how they set the scene up because they make it seem like it's something more. She's just like walking through the house, she's calling Alex's name. It's a little eerie, and then he's just there making breakfast. Like, oh, okay. I was like, that was weird. Why'd you like set that up like that? That was weird. Like you were setting it up like there was going to be someone else in the house or something. It's like, no. And then I like the twist, like not twist, but just like the thing that she points out. The fact is that everything's on loop, like the sound effects are on loop. I'm like, really? And she points it out. I'm like, I was like, cause that neighborhood, like she admitted, she's like, it's a little too damn peaceful. I'm like, yeah, there's no random people walking around neither. It don't seem like a normal. I was like, so it started making me think, it's like, is he part of Hive? Like, is this whole thing a setup? It's like, no, like if, maybe, I don't know, because, we end up seeing the fact is that he has those supplements he got from, Mrs. Dark, and then we recognize them as those yellow pills that you take that basically hypnotize you. And then she was like, where'd you get those? And he told her where he got them from. And then she's like freaking out because he's like, why are you freaking out? Like, I think you're a little tired, because he's like, because she's thinking everything's suspicious, but he's like, you're just kind of, being a little crazy. End up finding out she's inside of, essentially, because, essentially, which this is the first time actually seeing it in a grander scale, because we've only seen the crops. We've never seen the actual area, and it looks like it's actually a small town where, Dark, the little dome area underneath Star City, where Dark is going to bring the select few to survive after Genesis activates. And I just thought that was fascinating. Like, I still don't know about the whole Alex situation. Like, is he just being manipulated by Hive, or is he part of Hive now? Did he take one of the pills and he's under their suggestion? I feel like it was too, like, there's no way he's dumb to what's going on. So either he's under their control or he's just a devout member. I feel like out of anything, he has to be under their control. So he must be like under their suggestion, but he doesn't necessarily realize what he's doing per se, because he's thinking I'm here with my girlfriend, we're having a fun time, that's all it is, and I'm supposed to keep her at bay or stuff like that. So it's like, I'm curious to see where that situation goes. I really don't think he is a bad guy. Maybe he actually is. Like I said, the girl who became the Black Canary, like last episode, she went after him. That could have been because she knows he definitely is connected to Hive, or is that just because she went after him because of his association with Mrs. Dark, him being her, not campaign manager, but kind of her assistant. So maybe it was kind of guilt by association, or was it because she actually does know that Alex is part of Hives? Because he's seen him walk about the scenes before, that she's come across him before. So maybe Alex has been kind of working with Hive since the beginning. Like I said, just a theory. It'd be kind of interesting if that was the case, that even when he was working with Oliver, he was actually working for Dark. But I'm thinking, like, I'm pushing that he's just under the suggestion of those pills. So. And we also had the more magical side of this episode, which apparently you had Constantine recommend this person. Her name is Fortuna, which I did look up at the end of this episode. There was a character I came across. I don't remember his name. Is it Amos Fortune? It's some character that's apparently connected to the DC who has some kind of connection to gambling or something. Like, I don't think this character is connected to them, but it was something I was curious about. Like, is this like a well-known DC character or something? Just out of curiosity. But it ended up going to a casino, which I love, like, Felicity's like reaction to the whole thing, because she's like, yeah, I was kind of expecting, you learning magic to be like, oh, some mystical thing where it's like, oh, we have to go to the top of a mountain, not a casino. It does kind of get rid of some of the mysticism behind it. It's just kind of like, oh, you expect it to be like, oh, you define some old wise man at the top of a mountain, but like, oh, teaching you the power of magic. But I just like that. And she was having fun playing blackjack, which is like, apparently she's good at gambling. Has that come up before? Apparently they make it seem like she's done that before. That's come up that she's good at gambling, which it seems like she was having fun. But moving on, we met Fortuna, and Apparently, she's an immortal who knows, about Dark. She's kind of like, well, you can't help but know who Dark is, which is, it's kind of like, oh, you're not going to, like Felicity brought it up. It's like, oh, you're not going to do anything. She's like, oh, we immortals like myself choose not to get mixed up in immortal affairs, which is always the case. You always meet people who are like, oh, we're super powerful or we're immortal, but we don't interfere with mortal. It's like you have the power to. It's like you see what Dark is, and you're just letting him go about doing what he does. It's like, to me, it's like, if you're immortal, that doesn't change the fact is that it's still going to suck for you when things go his way. But it's like, it's kind of one of those situations where it's like, they're there, I guess, to just keep the balance. They're not meant to choose a side. They're just meant to watch, observe, and make sure everything kind of stays in balance or something like that. Or maybe they're not even there to maintain balance. It's like, then what's your purpose? It's like, if you're not going to like help protect people, it's like, what's the point then? I mean, that's just how I piece it together. And I did like that, essentially what Oliver has to do is learn how to channel light magic in a sense. That's the only way to repel Dark's magic. Basically, he has to, like, tap into the light within his heart. But if he taps into the darkness, he will only make Dark that much stronger, because Dark's idol, the power is drawn from death and fear. What Oliver has to tap into is the light and the hope. And it kind of doesn't work, the second time he gets surrounded by darkness. He gets beat up by Slade. Could only assume it's either Malcolm or himself, as well as Dark. And then you see all these flashes of like his mom dying, being killed by Slade, his dad killing himself to make sure he survived. We also saw a scene from that lady. What's her name? I still don't know that lady's name. Her brother is Vlad, the one from the on Lian Yu that he's currently teamed up with. We saw a flash of her with her eyes yellow. And that was kind of representing the darkness in his heart. So I don't know whether to interpret that as like, oh, like what happened to, because that's something we still haven't seen yet. That's kind of like alluding to a future thing, but it's like, I mean, technically a past thing, but something we haven't seen in future in this show yet will pop up, in the next couple episodes. But it's like, because Oliver's eyes glow like that later on when he confronts Dark. Because I thought it was pretty badass. It seems like Dark's about to get him. He's killing Oliver, but then like the power kind of fades away. And I did like the look on Dark's face, because it's the first time he's ever kind of like encountered like being like his magic being countered. And Oliver's eyes glowed yellow. So it seems like that happened to her in the past, because Oliver's talked about the fact is that he's seen that kind of magic that Dark uses. It does kind of like corrode people. It does eat away at the it fills them with darkness. And he did worry that maybe he had to like tap into like the darkness in his own heart to kind of fight Dark. But interestingly enough, Felicity, being the light of hope that he can always go to, she always like drags him back from his quote unquote pity parties. It's just like he's essentially saying like the darkness in him is like, the fact is that he's like, you were right, I can't change. She's like, I was just hurt, I was going through a rough time when I said that. It's like everyone's capable of change. And it does make you, I mean, this episode kind of proves it, but it does make you 100% wonder, is that really possible for Oliver to 100% change? Because it's very interesting, because it's something he's dealt with since really season 2, because season 2 is really when he wanted to change, because Tommy's death made him want to not kill people and he wanted to become a hero that his best friend could be proud of. Because, prior to that, Tommy just looked at him like a serial killer. So it's just like that type of situation. But it does make you wonder, like, ever since then, it's always been a struggle for Oliver, tapping into trying to be a beacon of hope, versus, the darkness that's grown inside of him, that he acquired from Leah and you. So it's an interesting dynamic that always having to struggle between, because he even admits, he's like, sometimes he can't help it but turn back into what Leah and you made him into, like the person Leah and you turned him into. He wants to be a better person. He wants to be hopeful, but he can't. In a sense, that darkness is always pulling him back in, because it's like it's hard to escape who he became on the island. So yeah, and we finally found out what Genesis was about. That basically the reason why that dome exists is because essentially it was something that Argus had. Is essentially a device to basically cut all ties with all nuclear weapons. Essentially, in case any country decides to launch nuclear weapons, they can be shut down immediately. Basically, all Dark's got to do is re-engineer it and make it so that he can launch all of them at once. That's what Genesis is to basically use nuclear weapons to wipe out the world. To kind of start fresh. As they allude to it, is essentially it's his flood from Noah's Ark. So it's like that's the flood, and the dome below the city is the ark. So very interesting episode. Things are just escalating more and more, and just I can't wait to see where we go from here. But that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.